Welcome back to New Jersey Power and Politics. I'm Laura Jones.
And I'm Jim McQueenie.
Big line right here. Deb Howlett is a familiar face in Trenton. She spent many years as a respected journalist for the Star-Ledger. She is also the former communications director for Governor John Corzine and was just named president of New Jersey Policy Perspective. Oh, and Jim, she's a friend of mine on Facebook.
Well, there you go. Okay, what's not going on in your life, Deb? Come on, sound like a lot of stuff when you get time for Facebook.
Jim, come on.
Jim won't join Facebook. He's just, you know, he's just not that into it, I guess. All right, well, let's talk. First of all, congratulations on the position.
Well, thank you very much. I'm quite excited about it.
All right, tell me a little bit so the audience understands. It's a liberal think tank. And,
well, we like to say it's a progressive think tank.
Progressive think tank,
and we want to look at the facts because that's what matters. And we want to do analysis of the facts and stay away from the politics and get into the policy. So it's pretty wonky stuff, but it's important, and it's important to broaden the debate in New Jersey
and, your
to
predecessor,
include that perspective.
I'm sorry, well, your predecessor, John Shore, was a frequent guest on the show, and he was always coming here talking, that's why we say liberal in here, but he was really for the income tax here, and he was always running against the grain. And here you have a situation where, you know, over this past weekend, you know, rallying at the State House, tens of thousands of people on this thing, you know, what's
upset
it about?
About the governor's budget.
Well, let me just say, first of all, that NJPP was one of the first advocates of the millionaire's tax back in the early part of this decade when it was first implemented. And
we busted John's chops when it suddenly was reduced to a $400,000 threshold. He was still calling it the millionaire's tax.
Well,
so.
if you combine incomes for households, maybe you still get there. But I think the idea was, and it remains, that if there is to be shared sacrifice, it should be shared by everybody. And the point of the rally is sharing equally in the sacrifice. There are a lot of program cuts that are necessitated by reducing spending. And a lot of them hurt a lot of people, the elderly, the disabled, working in middle-class New Jerseyans. And I think they're part of the millionaire's taxes, and the reason for the rally is that you want to share that burden fairly, and if it requires program cuts to the elderly and middle-class New Jerseyans, then the wealthiest New Jerseyans should share in that sacrifice as well.
When you talk about, you know, who is to share in the blame or who is to share in the burden, why does it always have to be about raising taxes? Why is it so hard to live within our means? Aren't there ways to be able to live within our means so that taxes don't have to go up?
Well,
and
sure.
programs are saved.
And that's the whole point. And one of the interesting things about tax cuts on the state level is that if you look at some of the federally run programs and the money that comes through the state and to fund them, there have been cuts to family care and some general assistance TANF grants that in state funding that have been more devastating because you also lose federal money. So you cut $44 million to programs that help people get health care, and then you lose $75 million in federal funding. So that ends up being $114 million, I think is the total, in lost funding. So you're saving 40-some million from the state budget, but it's costing $114 million. And those are the kinds of decisions that people are concerned about. That's penny wise and pound foolish, I think, from the perspective of the folks who are protesting and from those of us who look at numbers for a living.
The governor said to the legislature, said to Steve Sweeney, who walked that millionaire's tax down to his office to be signed, no way, not going to happen. Steve Sweeney even said, all right, well, we'll be back. Governor Christie said, well, we'll wait and see. Why do you think that thousands of people taking to the street, do you think that is going to make a difference with this governor?
I don't think so. He seems pretty adamant in his position. But at the same time, I think for those people, it's important to be heard and to go out and have their say. And you know, maybe it changes something. When the legislature started talking about restoring programmatic cuts for prescription drugs for the elderly, suddenly there was money in the couch cushions from the federal government to restore that, $55 million.
And it is a case here, this is the time to be protesting because the budget deliberations that you can put things back on are occurring here over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, waiting till July will have no effect at all. So I think it's appropriate that people are out there saying how they feel and letting their legislators and the governors know how they feel. I think people will be fairly well behaved, and there's talk that that it might be persuasive. Just by the the sheer volume of it. But we'll have to wait and see. And Sweeney seems to think that there's some hope, because the Senate President promised the governor last night, as I overheard him while I watched the theater of all this, we'll be back. So I don't think the veto was the end to the discussion.
Right. All right. Well, congratulations on your new position.
So much.
That means that we'll be calling you again.
I'll be
So
glad
you
to
better
come
free up
back
your
again.
calendar.
Absolutely.
Good to have you here. And that is going to do it for this week. I'm Laura Jones.
I'm Jim McQueenie, and we'll be back next week. Thanks for watching this week. We'll catch you next time.